Good morning.
Good morning.
God bless everyone here,
You too.
seen and unseen. House is always full. For those just tuning in, welcome to Redemption Life Center, Catoosa, Oklahoma, where the Word is always flowing here, like a river,
Amen.
proceeding out of the throne of God.
Yes.
Because it's not our word and it's not our opinion, but it's pure, there's no mixture, and if we listen to it and take it to heart, it'll help us. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, let me write down the time here. All right. It's taken me weeks to prepare this message simply because I looked up a lot of names. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to even tell you what the name is or even how to pronounce it because it's irrelevant to the point I'm going to make today. So the last things that God dropped in my heart was I heard him say repairer of the breach, and then I heard him talk about seasons or seasons of change. So that'll be my next one when I start to get into it. But today I'd like to go start in 2 Chronicles 34, and we'll begin something here. I'm not going to make this a two-parter, so bear with me. We're gonna Rambo through this thing. So in 2 Chronicles chapter 34, starting in verse 8, I'm just going to start reading here. It says, "Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Uzziah and Messiah, the governor of the city, and Joah the son of Joaz, the recorder, to repair the house of the Lord God." That's the key to this. It's not repairing the house of the Lord, and you're like, well, why would that need to happen? Well, because it happened, and it was done on purpose. And there's a reason for it. There's always a reason God does things. And when he does something, he's doing more than what you and I can see. The only way I can describe it is he's multifaceted, multidimensional. What appears on the outside is one thing, but he's doing many other things that we can't see. And that's where it takes his Spirit to lead and guide us and saying, this is what I'm really doing. This is what you saw, but this is what I'm really doing. Okay? Repair the house of the Lord his God. And I guess I can read verse 9. "And when they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of God, which the Levites that had kept the doors had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and all of the remnant of Israel, and of all Judah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem." This is where I make the statement, provision has been made. Because it wasn't just certain people. If you read the verse 9 with me, they gathered at the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and of all the remnant, and of Judah and of Benjamin. There's provision coming in from multiple sources. Okay? God's not limited on what he does. Now, my whole point of that was provision has been made. And I'm going to prove to you today why that provision is here. And the title of my message today is The Purpose of Ministry. Okay? The purpose of ministry. So if we go over to Hebrews chapter 6 and verse 1. Some of these things I'm just going to read. I'm not going to get off topic, okay, because there's a lot of rabbit trails here. Hebrews 6, chapter 1, it says, "Therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, let us go on unto perfection, not laying again the foundation of repentance from dead works and of faith toward God." There's a lot of misconceptions of perfection, okay? We're going to get into that word. It's not really what you think it means, and people think for them to come to church that they've got to get tidied up, straightened up. They got to get their mind in the right order. They got to do this and that, and that's false. That's a lie. God wants you to come as you are, whether you're on your lowest low or your highest high, because he has something for everybody on every level. And it's not about getting your ducks in a row. It's about having a relationship with him. Maybe you're scared of the people. Maybe you think they're going to be judgmental. Well, the ones that are being judgmental, guess what? They got a problem. And that's between God and them. I would just say ignore them. God's happy that you showed up.
Amen.
And when he does that, when you do that for him, you're honoring him in that way, he's going to bless you. And blessing's not always financial. My God, in this day and age, a financial blessing doesn't really help somebody because the world is so topsy-turvy and upside down. You would need to be mentally blessed to stand in the day. It's so crazy out there, the other mind, that you don't know which way to go. Up is down, down is up. The pineapple left the cake. You don't know what it is. It's chaos and confusion. So with that in mind, keep in mind perfection. We're going to go over to 3 John chapter 1 and verse 4. And remember, this is God speaking here, okay? So it must matter. It must mean something. We have to take it to heart. 3 John chapter 1 verse 4 says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. That doesn't sound like perfection to me, the way that a human being would think of perfection. God's saying, it gives me no greater joy than for you to know what's going on, for you to know who you really are in this world. Your identity is not what you see in the mirror. And it gives me no greater pleasure than for you to find out by allowing me to show you and tell you. My father would tell his story about how he received Jesus into his life. And he asked him one time, he said, why did you do it this way? And God simply told him, because you wouldn't go to church.
Yeah.
I had to meet you where you're at. You were sitting in the back seat of that car, so I spoke to you. You were walking around in the back side of that club you just bought that you didn't ask me if you should do that or not. And I spoke to you again. I mean, stuff like that. If people would just go to church, for starters, you got to start somewhere. Maybe it's not the church you're going to spend the rest of your life with, but you got to start somewhere, because faith comes by hearing, and it's only by the word. And if you don't hear the word, you're never going to develop anything. Because reading is reading, but hearing the word is a completely different thing. Don't ask me why. That's the way God did it. That influence of it coming forth, out of the throne. All right. With that in mind, let's go to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11, and we're going to start talking about the perfection here and how that pertains to the purpose of ministry, Okay. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 11 says, and he gave some apostles and some prophets and some evangelists and some pastors and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ. Now, people have looked up this word perfecting and other stuff, and they use the word equipping, but I still say that that's part in part. It doesn't explain it. Equipping for what? What are you equipping? So we're going to look at this word perfection here. It's the Greek 5047 if you want to look it up. Like I would say, don't trust a word I say, but trust every word I say. But go look it up. 5047 in the Greek, it says the state, completeness, mentally or morally. Oh, Here's a little bit better clue on perfection. How's your mental state, your state of mind? How is it? Is it good? Or we got issues? Okay? 5046, complete in various applications of labor, growth, mental or moral character. Okay, we're getting a better idea here about what this perfection is talking about. 5056, to set out for a definite point or goal, running the race. The conclusion of an act or state, termination, which all that means is that when something ends, something new begins. Let's say that, somebody just received Jesus today and there was a termination there of the old you, and now you're beginning something new. Hopefully, Okay? So I would ask this question, what was Jesus' goal? That was the goal. But there was a journey that he had to make, okay, Pastor Judy said to pay for our sins. What sins? What sin?
Anything that goes against the will of God. It's the way I perceive it.
Okay. Well, this is what I've come to understand by looking up all these words over the years, is that to become human is sin. You're leaving a God mind and you're receiving the lowest of the lowest minds, which God says, I have to fix this thing from start to finish. But that's part of the plan of man, the journey on this planet, a learning thing. As sons of God, in him, we don't learn anything. We know everything. We're not doing anything. We can do everything he can do. I've heard so many near-death experiences, which some people would say, oh, I wouldn't trust that. They're just, spinning stories and stuff like that. Why would they? Because a lot of things of what they tell me actually kind of help solidify what I know from the scriptures and gives me an actual clearer picture. And as one guy said, in that instant, when I was out of my body, present with the Lord, I knew everything. So we're going to remember everything one way or the other. I'd just like to remember as much as I can here now. Okay? Now, what was Jesus' goal? The result was purpose. Purpose. So apply that to our lives. We have a purpose here. And I'm not just talking about in this church. I'm talking about we have a purpose for each and every one of us in our lives, right? It's not just to get up every day and go to work, because that I don't see any purpose in that except to pay bills, which never end and seem to increase every year. Lord help us. Purpose, not for him, but for us. Okay? Specifically, it says, and this is still part of the word perfection here, an impost or levy as paid. Well, Jesus went and paid the ultimate price. It was paid. And then finally, the uttermost, to know him. The ultimate purpose for a human being, to know your maker. And that's not mommy and daddy. That's the Father of all lights. And we could get into a lot of names. God is our purpose. Okay? It's not what you can or can't do. God says, I can do above all you can ask or think, so ask away within reason. If you're going to sit there and say, oh, I want to be a millionaire, I want to own jets, and I want to do all this, he's like, no, now you're thinking vain thoughts which are empty and produce no purpose. Okay? Now, before I go on, Matthew chapter 10, verse 34, Jesus makes a statement here. And I guess people miss this when they read the New Testament. They don't understand what these ministries are about. Matthew chapter 10, 34, Jesus says, think not that I am come to send peace on this earth, on this planet. I didn't come to do that. I came not to send peace, but a sword. Now, when Jesus' ministry was activated, what did he do? The kingdom's at hand. The kingdom's at hand. The kingdom's at hand. What does that mean? He's sitting there telling you that, hey, the order and priesthood of Melchizedek has been carried through all the generations of time, and I'm presenting it to you now because I'm the end of this thing, and it's going to be completed. The right way to think, the right way to speak, the right way to talk, but it's not just about doing that. He has to get you to that point. Learning, training, growing, mental and moral character development. Doesn't happen overnight. I mean, just because as when we were kids learning how to read and write, that didn't happen overnight. A lot of kids are like this, and my mom used to say, she's like, you used to sit there and be like, I don't want that in my head. Because as kids, what do you want to do? You want to play. Play because what? It's fun. That's work. I don't want to do that. That's no fun. You know? Now I'm going to keep reading here in Matthew. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's foes shall be they of his own household. Uh-oh. Because the other, flip the coin there, Jesus also makes a statement, hey, you don't have any honor in your own household, but everywhere you go, they'll probably honor and respect you. Because what did they say when Jesus sat down in the chair in the synagogue? And he's like, today this scripture is fulfilled in your ears. And they're sitting there going, isn't this Joseph's son, the carpenter's son? Who is this guy? No honor, no respect, no recognizing the true truth and purpose. They just want to kill the guy. Who are you? You know? Well, they wouldn't be saying that if they knew who they were. There had been no training for them. If there had been, it's been wrong, in error, and he's going to fix all that. So back to the question, what is the fivefold ministry for? Because this includes all ministries. And this goes beyond the fivefold. What about the ministries for children? The ministries for helping people with addictions, the ministries for all these different things? This goes way beyond this. Anytime you're trying to help somebody, you're ministering to them. Whether you're using the Word of God or just good advice, you're ministering to them. Think about it. It goes way beyond the apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists. It goes beyond that. Okay? God's not limited. Okay. Isaiah. Good old Isaiah. Chapter 61 and verse 4. And here's where it starts to talk about what the purpose of ministry is for, okay? Isaiah 61, chapter 4. And they shall build the old wastes. They shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolations of many generations. Well, I haven't looked up the word many there, but I've looked up the word many in other spots. They don't always mean the same thing, but when I did before, it meant the largest number. So all generations. Nobody's excluded. Okay? They're going to build, raise up all the generations. Okay? Now, we're going to go back in Isaiah to chapter 58. In verse 11, and he's going to give you a little bit more information about what we just read in Isaiah 61, okay? So Isaiah 58, verse 11, and the Lord shall guide thee continually. Are we letting him guide us? Are we listening to his instructions? Are we listening for the still small voice? Are we listening or feeling for the little nudging of his spirit? Are we trying to obey him on a daily basis, because God is always speaking to us, always directing us. Are we trying? That's all he asks. He gives him no greater pleasure than you walk in truth. Just try. Okay? He'll guide thee continually and satisfy thy soul in drought. In your hard times, he'll be there. In your weakest moments, he's there. And our moments of desolation and times that we question and we say, oh, I give up, I quit, I can't do it anymore, I can't progress, he's there. But he says, I'm going to satisfy your afflicted soul. Well, the only way this happens is he's going to re-educate us. Okay? I'm going to keep reading here. Satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones, and that thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water whose waters fail not. Verse 12. And they that shall be of thee, of like mind, not talking about everybody in these four walls, every Christian, every son of God who's trying to follow the lead in the Spirit, they shall be of thee, shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many generations. Because guess what? They have foundations, but they're fractured. They're on the sinking sand. They're not quite stable yet, but the foundations are there. So guess what? We don't have to start from scratch, but we start by where God takes us. Shall raise up foundation of many generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach. Now it uses the word repair, not plural, and the word breach, not plural. Repairer of the breach. Why? Because we're all of like mind. It's God's word. He's not asking for 2,000 different interpretations or religions of it. He says all will come to the unity of the faith. But that's by his Spirit, not by us trying to argue and convince one another of what's going on. So many times we talk to people about the Word, and they'll be like, well, that's not how I was taught. Well, why don't you go study it a little bit? You might actually believe what I'm saying because it's not my opinion. It's what the definitions of the original language say about what it's saying, and that's called logos. Okay? Just do that, and treat yourself. Repair of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. And we'll get back to that. Okay. Repair of the breach. What's the breach? Okay. What happens to the sons of God who become human? There's a separation. Has to be. It's the only way it works. God hijacks your mind. He has it for you. But to become human, you won't remember. Now you start all over in a natural environment, natural living, natural raising, natural education, natural this. You got to learn to eat. You got to learn to sleep right. You got to have a schedule. You got to learn to talk right. All these things that you didn't have to do when you were a son of God. It's the human experience. But at the same time, you're going to be taught wrong. You're going to be taught mixture. And God's like, hey, I've got something for you when it's time. You always have a choice. Your identity is there for the taking. The kingdom's at hand. The kingdom, it's available if you want it. People don't even inquire about it. What was the kingdom? Easy. God's mind, your identity. Do you want to remember, or do you just want to go around playing human? Okay? There's a separation in mind. I want to go over to 2 Chronicles. 2 Chronicles chapter 34 and verse 10. And it's going to start telling you what ministry is doing here. And they put in the hand of the workman that had the oversight of the house of the Lord, and they gave it to the workmen that wrought in the house of the Lord to repair and amend the house. Amen? This is talking about everybody who's trying to allow the Spirit to lead and move and guide them in the Word in their daily lives, okay? But look at this word amend. It's the key word here. Hebrew 23:88, to fasten upon, or what you're taking a hold of, what you're focused on. Hence to seize, be strong and strengthen. Cure 6. Every time you see the number 6, it's not talking about Satan or the adversary. It's talking about the mind of man. It's separated from God and has nothing more than a beast nature. That's why trying to re-educate kids. But the spirit, the prince of the power of the air, he's going around causing mischief. Kids are disobedient by nature. Why? Because they don't have a relationship with God. Nowadays, they barely have a relationship with their parents. They're so fastened or focused on their emotions by what they see. I want to do this. I want to experience that. I want to do this and do that. And it's like, you don't need to do those things because it's not good for you. And just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that makes it better for you. And then parents, when the kids get old enough, they're like, I can't control them. Well, you messed up from the beginning, so, you stop right there. There is a cure. Because it says cure 6. In parentheses, help. The key word here next says repair 6. Repair man. Repair, retain, bind, restrain, conquer, constant, encourage self, fortify, behave self, valiantly, withstand, and maintain. This is the word amend. This is what ministry does, or is supposed to do, every time they talk to people. We're repairing the mind of man, whether you think about it or not. Now, it's not always with the Word of God. Sometimes it's just with good old-fashioned common sense. Instruction. Do this. Don't do that. If you do this, this is the result that happens. You reap what you sow. So if you're sowing good words, good reports, that comes back to us. When you do the opposite of that, guess what comes back to you? Okay? I hate to say it like this, but I'm going to say it like this. There's somebody that they've sown a lot of discord over the years, a lot of negative, bad language, this and that, bad attitude. Well, they have cancer now. I don't think that just happened because of how they eat. You reap what you sow. And this goes for Christians and non-Christians. Christians are not excluded from this because we're going through a learning process. Well, you're supposed to be going through a learning process. And the thing happened to my father. He said some wrong stuff by accident. He repented. But the other guy wasn't so lucky. And there's nothing he could do to stop what God allowed to happen because of what he had sowed. We have to be very careful the words we use to people. They're powerful. And sometimes when you think, oh, I just said that just because, that might have been more effective than you actually trying to proclaim it. You don't know what God's going to honor. He's like, oh, you said that, huh? Well, let's see what happens. It happened to other ministries. Not thinking about the repercussion down the road. Things that would happen to their physical bodies. Hey, amend. So, God is multidimensional, multifaceted. When he does one thing in the natural way, he's doing several other things spiritually. And the spiritual part is what matters the most. Okay? Which brings me to where we're going to be for the rest of the service here. Going over to Nehemiah chapter 3. And verse 1. Now, I'm going to give you just a little bit of history here about Jerusalem. Because here in Nehemiah, the whole chapter, they're repairing gates, walls, bars, locks, streets, walls, pieces, altars, house of the Lord. They're repairing all kinds of things, and there was many people involved. I heard this guy on the radio this morning. It was so funny because he's talking about Nehemiah chapter 3. From what I could hear, because the further I drive out here, the radio station's picking up others is bleeding through, and I can't hear what the guy's saying. But he's using Nehemiah to predict the coming of the Lord. Come on. You can't. Jesus said, no man knows times and seasons. You can't sit here and take these numbers and predict when I'm coming. And that's what he was doing. I was like, you're missing the whole point of Nehemiah. And I'm going to give you the point of Nehemiah today. Like I said, we're going to finish this, and I ain't making this a two-parter. It's got to be done. Okay. Jerusalem, throughout its history, the city has been destroyed at least 2 times, attacked 52 times, besieged 23 times, and recaptured 44 times. That's a lot of nonsense going on there. By who? Different kings, Roman generals. Rome would say, go take, because all they wanted to do was conquer nations. Talk about a prestige of power struggle there, like, hey, we got the power, you don't. We're bigger than you, so we're gonna take you. Mind of man. Now, the funny thing here, it says in Nehemiah, it says the walls were rebuilt in a record time of 52 days. Record time of 52 days. But here in the history it says it was attacked 52 times. So in record time, there was a repair of walls. What does walls do? Protect. They keep in and they keep out. It's kind of like Noah's Ark, pitched within and without. There's a protection for the people inside from what's coming on the outside, okay? You can look at it in the natural, but I'm thinking spiritual here. And the song we sang today shows He's our tower because that's where we're supposed to be. You never leave the high tower. You never leave the house of the Lord. And I'm not talking about the church building you're in. Where's your mind? It's got to be in Him, stayed and seized and focused upon Him. He's our strong place. He's our place of comfort and rescue at all times. When we're in our lowest low or our highest high, we still remain in Him. Some people get way ahead. They get the cart before the horse, and they're like, oh, I don't need the horse anymore. Yeah, well, the cart's going downhill, and you left the horse up on the hill. You don't know where you're going. You're at full speed, and you're out of control. You can't get ahead of God. We've got Him by the hand. It's not the other way around. Okay? I know I make fun sometimes, but hey, you got to, got to break a smile. Okay. Now, they say there's 3 main stages of the rebuilding, but I think they missed the underlying and overall bigger picture of Nehemiah. They're looking at natural restoration, okay? But I'm sitting here looking at Nehemiah chapter 3, and there's a lot of names of people in here. So I took it upon myself to look up every name. You have ministry, you have sons, and then it names the son and who his father is. And then it also names what tribe they're of, or what area they're from, okay? So I looked up every single name, 71 of them, 71 names. And I'm not going to tell you how to say them or pronounce them, it's irrelevant, but I'm going to give you the description because the description shows you what's going on in Nehemiah. But it's not just Nehemiah. It's showing you what's going on with ministry. Okay? Now, there's negative and positive in there, so maintain the balance. When you hear negative thing, you're like, God's not that. No, but man's mind is. He's repairing the mind of man. Just remember that, okay? The book of Nehemiah, chapter 3, there's a lot going on. A lot. East gate was repaired. the Mifkad gate, sheep gate, horse gate, valley gate, dung gate. And the interesting thing about the dung gate is there was a particular king, and he repaired the dung gate. A king. Okay, we're not going to get into that. Walls, bars, locks, and pieces, desolations, old gate, breaches, fountain gate, the altar of the Lord, breaches of the house of the Lord. Now, if you just take away the whole aspect of the city and just focus on your mind, this is what it's talking about. This is your mind. If anybody remembers the 12-gate study, what's a gate? What? Spiritually speaking. A gate is an experience that we go through in God. And there's 12 gates in the city, spiritually speaking. There was in the natural in David's time, but every time a new king came in, he kept expanding the city, making more areas, more gates, blah, blah, blah. Well, we know that the original 12 is God's governmental number. There's order to it, okay? It was complete enough in that order. Gate is an experience. There's different parts of the city. There's different experiences we have in God, and these are learning experiences. And some of them we go through quickly, and some of them we stay in a long time. Some we go in, and then we go back out, and then we go back in. Bishop Gary would say it this way: sometimes the gates you go through gets locked, and you're on the inside, and others have rotating doors. You go in and out, okay? You don't always stay in these areas. And these are areas of our lives, different times of our lives, when we're leaning on God to lead, guide, and educate us. God's knowledge, God's word, okay? Not man. All right. I'm going to start reading this big definition. So stay with me, because this is good stuff, people. Stay with me here. 71 names. God will restore. Mindful. Talkative, but it's eloquent speech. Thorny or to prick. Heights and elevations. Flame of Jah. Jehovah, Yahweh is my light. Thorn or to clip off. Allied. Friend. Blessing of Jah. God delivers. Just, righteousness. In the affliction. Trumpet blast. Jehovah knows. Limping. Counsel of Jehovah. Jah has delivered. Little hill. Not a big hill. Sometimes in life we see things that are just, oh, I can't do this. And God's like, it's not as bad as you think it is. Your problem's not as bad as you think it is. Okay? Thankful. Joyful shouter. Watchtower. Jah has cured. Hill of Jehovah. Hole. To bore a hole. Praised of Jah. To use. To devote to religious use. Assembled. Thought of Jah, whom Jehovah regards. Can you see a picture here? Who would know that all these names mean this in this chapter? The people's names, their fathers' names, and what their tribe or nationality was. Look at these words. Very interesting. Strength of God. Fear of God. Respect. To smelt, refine, and test. Ointment maker. A male perfumer. Well, is Jesus not called the lily of the valley? Now, there was one time my dad was in a church service at Community Assembly, and he said that at one point in one of the services, the whole room smelled like a rose. And it was a very particular smell, and you know that's the perfume or the essence of the Lord. Very cool to experience that. I didn't experience it, but he did. And he told me about it. You know, when ministry tells us certain things, you want to latch onto that and remember that. Because they're telling it not just for you, but for whoever you're going to talk to. And then whoever they're going to talk to. These are stories that we're supposed to pass on. Okay? Ointment maker, a male perfumer. Prepare, Make room to broaden, enlarge, to grow. My king is Jehovah, dedicated, intelligent, considerate of his father, to dig a pit, a snare, retribution, recompense, reward, to be safe in mind, body or estate, to make completed, the whisperer, enchanter, favored, gracious, to bend or stoop in kindness, rejected, forsake, or outcast, king of, that is, appointed by Dah, a king, or royal, rider, dispatch, house of the vineyard, retribution, every seer, all-seeing, make complete, make whole, watchtower for military purposes, sent, what is being sent? The word is being sent. Jehovah comforts, stern, depopulator, strong devastation, house of the rock, compassion, built or to build, Jehovah has considered, fortress, my goings, going in this part of the city, in this gate, now I'm going over to this part, I learned enough over here, God took me around the mountain, I learned how to, if I can't climb it, he showed me how to go through it. You see the spiritual aspect of this mind training. Favored of Hadad, graciousness, kindness, precious. Now Hadad was the father of another guy named Henadad, but it's the favor of the father. Treasure, help, protect. He is saved. He will save. Jehovah is salvation. Blessed, to kneel as an act of adoration. Pure, son of the right hand. We know that's Benjamin. Jehovah has helped. Work of Jehovah. Jah has covered. Built up, build or rebuild, establish, cause to continue. Judge, intercede, pray. To be strong. Jah has ransomed, preserved, and redeemed. A flea, isolated insect. That was kind of funny, you know. Begin, that's part of that flea. It's the mind of man, you know. Isolated insect. But guess what? You're not going to remain that way. Caterpillar turns into a butterfly. To give, to serve. Heard by Jehovah, to hear intelligently. Wound. Now, if you were wondering what... let me find the name here. If you were wondering what Nehemiah meant, come on. Probably, yeah, that sounds like it. I've got all these bunched together. Literally one line after another. Okay. Nehemiah. Yeah, comfort. He's going to comfort us through the process that we have to go through. And like I said, this extends way beyond fivefold ministry. Anybody who's trying to help somebody is a ministry. Drug addiction, alcohol addiction, sex addiction, whatever's going on. I have anger issues. I have this, I have that. There's people out there, good people with a good mind to try and help. But, and I'm going to say it like this, the true purpose of the fivefold ministry is to be led by the Holy Spirit. It's not about how much you try and educate yourself with. You can get buried down in the books, buried down in the language, buried down in this and that, but we need what Logos says, which is, and to me it's in its simplicity of, this is what it's trying to tell me. It's what it's trying to tell me, so forget all this other stuff. There was a time that when my father sat under A.D. Morney at Community Assembly, or Raise of Faith, whenever they changed the name, doesn't matter, God eventually told A.D. Morning, he said, put away the books. Enough studying, and just say what I tell you to say. Well, look at all the men of God in the Bible. They did what God told them to do, one way or the other. Some of them didn't like it. Some of them kicked against the pricks. Some of them just flat out ran the other way. But God said, hey, you're going to do what I'm going to tell you to do, and the end result is purpose. And it's going to not just help you, but it's going to help everybody that I'm sending to you or sending your way. So the true purpose of the fivefold ministry is to be led by the Holy Spirit, to reteach, retrain, and rebuild the human mind. Okay? To repair the breach, the separation that is humanity. God wants to live in man, but the only successful way is for man to accept and realize that he or she needs to put God first. If a person can't realize that they need something greater than themselves, you ever seen some people struggle and they're trying to do everything on their own? I can't make this happen. Well, stop trying to do it on your own and get with somebody of like mind that can help. God's like, hey, if you put me first, this will be successful. But so many people come up with their own ideas and then want God to bless that, and that doesn't work either. My dad made so many plans, and God's like, no, you're not going over there. You're not doing that. And it's not that he was trying to keep him from doing his hopes and dreams. It wasn't that. He's just, that wasn't his plan. Sometimes we try to plan our lives out. I don't recommend doing that. We live and move and have our being in him every day. He leads, guides, and directs us. We don't sit there and make our own roadmap going, well, I'm going to go here and then do this and that. And God might be like, no, because I have people for you to help along the way. If you go over there, then you're not helping anybody. Okay? By putting God first in our lives, first in everything we do, it gives him the honor and glory. It makes you feel good. And I'm going to go back to Isaiah here, and then I'm about done with this because the point's been made. Isaiah 58, I'm just going to reread it, verse 12. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. All these things that you think are broken, that you think are torn down, that you think the enemy took or overcame you, that you think that there's no hope. All that's a lie. God can do anything. And he wants to live in man, and that was his plan, and he's going to have his way. He says, I'm going to be all in all. Whether the mind of man likes it or not, I'm greater than that, and I'm going to have my way, because he says, this is my pleasure. And he also says, it's my pleasure to give you the kingdom, to give you your mind back. It's my pleasure to give you your identity back. But you still have a choice. Thou shalt raise up the foundations of many or all generations, and thou shalt be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. What's a path?
Where to get from point A to point B.
Well, when you look it up, it uses the word circuit. You ever go to a health club? This is just a small example. A trainer gives a person a routine. It's a circuit. You're going to go to this, start at this machine, and you're going to work your way around. Here's your circuit. Here's your routine. This is daily life, daily living, the routine of putting God first. The routine of daily living. You're not living for yourself. You're living in him. And he makes all things wonderful for us. Okay? A circuit, daily routine, daily life, daily God life. This is the true purpose of all ministry. Every word I just read in there for those names, it's complete. I doubt you could very seriously find something that is lacking in there about repairing people's minds. So if somebody were to ask, well, how do you do that? Well, first of all, it'd be nice if you went to church, watched the videos online, Take the word in and allow it to begin to change the way we think. We're not perfect, but he's perfect in us. And just because we can't see a completed thing, he does. And since he knows the end from the beginning, that's why it says you maintain, you continue, you don't give up, and you don't stop. He's going to have his perfecting work in us. And people say, well, he's equipping you for ministry. No, he's repairing your mind so you can actually talk to people. You know? Just because somebody receives Jesus one day and says, I got saved, you can't go help anybody except tell your experience. You're not helping anybody. All that did was put my dad in the loony bin. Jesus is in me. Oh, really? Well, we've got a special place just for you. We have to be careful of the words we use at all times and maintain composure and a sound mind. Amen? That's my message today on this ministry thing. For the purpose of ministry, I didn't really want to call it the repair of the breach because it's the purpose of ministry. What we do is what we do. Why? He's changed us from glory to glory, and now it's our turn to help change people from glory to glory. Because it's fun. It's exciting, and he blesses us because it honors him. Amen?
Amen.
That's it.